The next one here is Censor. This is, or at least was when I watched it, in theaters rental. I think it was kind of cheap, though. I think it was only a couple bucks. This is from the usually reliable Magnet Releasing. After viewing a strangely familiar video, Nasty, Enid, a film censor, sets out to solve the past mystery of her sister's disappearance, embarking on a quest that dissolves the line between fiction and reality. This is directed by Prano Bailey Bond. This is her debut feature film. She had done some shorts in the past. This stars Niamh Algar, Michael Siley, and Nicholas Burns. Niamh Algar is in Raised by Wolves, the HBO show. And Michael Smiley has been in a couple Ben Wheatley flicks. I recognized him from mainly from The Amazing Kill List. So real quick, I want to give a brief history of the video nasties. The term video nasty actually started as a way to refer to a brand of horror fiction in the 70s and 80s. Books like Rats, Night of the Crabs, Slugs, kind of those animal attack style books, and they were all inspired by kind of 50s and 60s science fiction movies, and they were referred to as nasties. And this sort of censorship and stuff, talking about this kind of stuff, can be seen throughout time. The thing that pops into my head was the war against horror comics in the post-World War II era, kind of before television really took hold in the States. A lot of this all stems from a way to protect children against what adults see as kind of dangerous ideas. With regards to film, this all started to take hold. The video nasty started to take hold with the home video boom of the 1980s. And in the early days, major studios held back a lot of their libraries for a short time. So the big budget, more popular stuff wasn't readily available. If you walked into like a tape trading or a video store, stuff like, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, you couldn't just go in and get it. So Britain has this thing called the British Board of Film Censors, the BBFC. They would basically decide which movies were and weren't allowed to be shown in British cinemas. Last House on the Left is a prime example of what we're talking about here. So Last House on the Left, the Wes Craven movie, was rejected by the BBFC, said you can't show it in theaters. But since that censorship didn't extend to home video, that movie would be now available on home video. So when someone walked into a video store or a tape trading store, they were looking for Raiders of the Lost Ark, they didn't get it, but that Last House on the Left was there, so it was available to them. So this also led to, the home video boom kind of also led to a lot of uncensored versions of films being released. Stuff that originally had to be shown in cinema in edited versions could now kind of be seen by people who liked horror movies in all its unedited glory, and the way it was meant to be seen, honestly. The public became aware of the availability of these videos kind of in 1982, and these people are all cops, by the way. But the funniest part of this whole thing, to me at least, was that it was brought to light by the distributors of Cannibal Holocaust. The distributors wrote anonymously to Mary Whitehouse, who was a conservative activist and the head of the National Viewers and Listeners Association, which campaigned against media content that was harmful, that was deemed harmful and offensive. They wrote to her as a way to drum up publicity for their movie. But what it did was kickstart a campaign against kind of the Wild West of tape trading and early video stores and the availability of these quote unquote video nasties. So these movies were this was a list of movies. They were blamed for corrupting the use of Britain, and the BBFC was renamed the British Board of Film Classification, and the films released on video before 1985 had to be resubmitted for classification by this board. So there you go. This movie, I went through all that because this movie kind of uses it as a jumping off point for the story it's about to tell. This movie also has a lot on its mind. It's about censorship, it's cultural repression, the protection of institutions against dangerous ideas, why we tell stories and how we use them to cope with traumatic experiences. The main character has a traumatic experience in this, and it's kind of about how we use storytelling to cope with those. It also deals with horror history, like I mentioned with the video nasty stuff. And as a horror history guy, I kind of love this movie. It is a slow burn. I do think that it delivers in the third act, which a slow burn horror movie has to do for me. The ending gets very wacky, maybe too wacky for some. This also, of course, has its giallo influences, like everything seems to these days, but it worked for me. It's a very cool looking movie. It also taps into a feeling that people have of wanting to make a difference. The main character in this, I believe she has good intention. She wants to make a difference. There is part of me that thinks censorship, and while I'm anti-censorship big time, it comes from a good place. The road to hell is paved with good intention and all that. But it shows how, where that can lead. It also has some things to say, like I said, about the breakdown of institutions and how the censor is a protector of those things. So as I'm moving through quickly on this, is this on my honor roll? Yeah, I'm going to put this on there. It's a very crowded field right now, but I think this has a chance to make my top 10 at the end of the year. I don't know if it will, but it's going to be hanging around there. I really like this. And like I said, it delivers in the end. So that's what it had to do. And a lot of the horror history stuff is fun to chew on.